Hello, fellow humans. As we traverse this earth together, we have these attributes called feelings. However, we have been trained, programmed, and taught that we don't need them, or that the only one that's valid is the one for anger. So when someone asks you, you meet them for the first time, or you're just meeting them again, or you're on the phone, one of the first questions most people ask is, how are you? What do we normally say? It's accepted to only say great, well, poorly is not even accepted, except in some cultures one can say poorly. But there's a wide range of feelings. Look at this one. Are you really being truthful with your feelings? Are you telling people exactly how you feel today? Look at the wide variety that you could be using. Are you using any of these when people ask you, how do you feel? If you were being truthful with your feelings, wouldn't you be using one of those? Or maybe even one of these? How do you feel today? I think instead of asking people, how are you today, we need to ask them, how do you feel today? And then we can, all of us, come out and speak the truth and say exactly what we're feeling. We don't need to go into a whole psychology behind it of why we feel this way. But I think it's important to really be willing and able to say that this is what we are feeling. And when we feel them, to then embrace them. So when we do not do this, when we give ourselves only a limited version of the feelings that we can use to communicate with others, or that we can admit to others, then we are actually cutting off exactly what we came here on earth to do. We're all energy. We're all energy. We're energy beings. Everything on earth in the universe is energy. And so are feelings. Feelings are actually the strongest form of energy we have. When we feel sick, it's the energy telling us we need to stop, slow down, or just stop and take care of ourselves. It's all energy. Tomorrow I'll be speaking more about this form of energy, sickness and illness. However, today just want to give a broad glance of all the different ways in which we restrict our feelings, suppress them, hold them back, or we live too much in them, forgetting that every feeling will change. There's a theory that it only takes 90 seconds for a feeling to change. That's a minute and a half. But unless we feed them. So each of these feelings can last only 90 seconds, a full minute and a half, unless we feed them. How do we feed them? We tell ourselves stories. We build whole stories around them and we live it out. But if feelings are just energy volts of electrical energy moving through us for only 90 seconds, why not feel them to the maximum? Because when you feel something and you amplify it, you release it. Yes, we can release whatever feeling if we simply pay attention to them, flow with them, and stop suppressing them, ignoring them, pretending that we do not have these feelings. Isn't this interesting that only certain feelings are seen as legitimate, and yet every feeling is authentic? Every time we feel one of these, we're being our authentic selves. It's simply playing into the storylines behind them that make them harmful to us. So in order to heal, I postulate that in order to heal, we must have these feelings, we must feel them, we must allow ourselves to our fullest capacity, allow them in and feel them. And we need to stop building stories around them. The only reason why we build stories around them is because we've never given access ourselves access to them in the first place. So they keep showing up in our lives and showing up, and then we build whole stories around them until we become victims. And victimhood is something that is very legitimate. I'm not going to belittle victims or victimhood, but it's when we build stories up around them and we then create entire lifestyles around them, that's harmful. That's when they become harmful. And we only do that because we have never ourselves embraced these feelings. Once we embrace them, they cease to exist. And then we move on to another feeling, a different feeling. Look at the full spectrum. There's so many different things we could be feeling. At the Chopra Center, we were taught that there are only two feelings, and that is pain and pleasure. So look at all of these and say which ones are on that spectrum to you, which ones are on the spectrum of pain or pleasure, and which ones do you tend to manipulate and use most to manipulate yourself to either do things or not do things. And then heal that by simply giving into the feeling when you have it, allowing yourself to sit with it. Do not do anything to suppress it or to distract yourself from it. One of the things that many people do when they have real feelings is they tend to start stuffing their mouths because of many different reasons, but mainly because that's what they were trained to do, because that's their family system. And those of you who know that I studied the Bert Hellinger family constellation systems will know that I find that to be one of the most healing tools ever. And I recommend, if you're able to find a therapist who's been trained in the Bert Hellinger family system constellation systems, to really work with someone like that. I was trained in it, but I didn't finish my training because I just felt overwhelmed when I saw the amount of sorrow and pain that so many people in the training, because it's very, 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 the training is very hands-on, and we live through people's pains and our own, of course. And it was just, I would come home and I would just be spent. I just felt every day that I went for the training, it was just such a hands-on training that I could not continue with, and I didn't see myself being helpful to clients with this particular therapy, although I strongly suggest it, and I really see how incredibly important it is. In fact, it's one of the most important therapies that I see myself. So I'm inviting you today to look at your feelings, hold space for them, create spaciousness in your life for your feelings. And when someone says to you, "How are you?" maybe instead of asking the person, "How are you?" back, ask, "How do you feel today?" And be prepared to hear what each person feels. Any of these, you don't need to have a whole story behind them or need to know somebody's story behind them to make them legitimate. Just by holding space for them to have these feelings very often can be enough, because very often they themselves do not know even how to do that for themselves, because they were never taught how to do that. So I invite you all today to look at your own feelings, accept them. Remember that they will only be there for about 90 seconds unless you feed them. And feeding them means resisting them too, and ignoring them or suppressing them. So forget about the distractions, and today allow yourself to feel if you really wish to heal, because the feelings are what give us the opportunity and the roadmap for our healing. I look forward to more of these on these elegantly raw tidbits with you. And until next time, please click the notification and the subscribe button below. And in the comments below, let me know how it is that you usually suppress your feelings, what you're willing to do to now begin to feel them, because that, as I said, is your pathway to not just healing, but when you heal, tremendous amount of freedom and liberty and such a feeling of empowerment that's so strong. So I invite you today to legitimize your own feelings. Thank you, and I look forward to more of